Good morning and welcome, dear friends, to our spiritual home, the Unitarian Universalist Church of Tarpon Springs. My name is Barbara Rosen, and I serve on our Board of Trustees, and I'm serving as your worship associate today. I use pronouns she, hers, and I'm a white woman with white hair, green eyes, and I wear glasses to read. We want to acknowledge that here at the church, we are on the lands of the Tocobaga and Seminole peoples. We are a church of many welcomes, and we offer a warm welcome to all of you. This is a liberal community for all ages, promoting spiritual growth, social justice, and the arts. This is an active church, and everyone is invited to participate in any of our activities. To learn more about our church, check the calendar on our website, uutarpon.org, or we'd be happy to talk with you during the coffee hour. Our children and youth are with us during the beginning of the service, and we have faith formation programming available with our gifted leaders, Jami and Anahis. Children gather for their time together with them after the story. If you'd like more information about our programming, please contact Reverend Kristina or see Jami after the service. For those present with us in the building, we have connection cards available in the pews near the hymnals. If you fill one out and put it in the offering plate or give it to one of our greeters, we'll be able to keep in touch with you. If you're watching us on Zoom or YouTube, you can send us an email at membership@uutarpon.org to get connected. There are also small cards to write any joys or concerns that you would like to share with if you prefer to do it in writing. We're delighted to have Reverend Kristina leading the service today and Griffin Kane joining her for story time and the sermon. Music is provided by our music director, Bonnie Whitehurst, and our choir. Again, welcome. Our opening hymn is, I Know This Rose Will Open, number 396 in the gray hymnal.
Number 396 is a round, and with rounds we all sing it together in unison one time through, and then we'll break into two parts. You and the congregation, or the first row, will lead you in beginning to sing, and then just a little bit later, when they get to two, the back row and I will start singing at the beginning of the round. So you probably all know what a round is. And so you may choose either to sing with the front row of the choir or the back row, if you like to be late. Okay, so here we go. I'm just playing it through so you know how it sounds the first time.
I know this rose will open. I know my fear will burn away. I know my soul will unfurl its wings. I know this rose will open. I know this rose. I know this rose will open. I know my fear will burn away. I know my soul will unfurl its wings. I know this rose will open. I know this rose will open. I know my fear will burn away. I know my soul will unfurl its wings. I know this rose will open.
I am the Reverend Kristina Spaude. Please refer to me as Reverend Kristina, Reverend K, or some iteration of those. I use she, her pronouns and am a white woman. I have chin-length curly brown hair, parted on one side, and blue eyes. Our opening words this morning come from Otto O'Connor. This is On a Holy Night in 1969. On a holy night in 1969, in an inn, also known as a bar, called the Stonewall Inn, a basement which had no running water nor safe fire exits. Queer people of many colors and kinds danced together, for it was the only place where they were allowed to dance, at least permitted to, by the mafia who ran the inn. In those days, it was common for the police to frequent this inn, not to join in the dance, the underground celebration, but to send the dancers home and make arrests. When they would arrive, the lights would go on, the people would be lined up, and then all those in drag, all those who were trans, all those without proper identification, they were arrested and taken into custody. But on this holy night, that early morning of June 28th, the people said, "Not tonight." As they called them to line up, the trans women refused to go. And as the police began to beat and arrest them, and as the people spilled out from the bar onto the street, Christopher Street, a crowd grew to watch. And then, as trans women, lesbians, and gay men were getting arrested, a yell came from the crowd, "Gay power!" And as a trans woman was shoved, she shoved back, and the crowd began throwing bottles at the wagon, and suddenly it erupted. For once, the people didn't line up. For once, the people said, "No more, we've had enough." It was almost as if that night, being pulled out of the darkness of the underground at the Stonewall Inn, one too many times, they said, "I'm ready to be seen." On this holy night, when the power of the oppressed rippled through the streets of New York, when queer people said, "No more," our world would never be the same. 50 years ago, it was illegal to be gay, to be trans, to dance and to love and to celebrate. And now, 50 years later, here we are celebrating at a church. Gay and straight together, queer and straight together, trans and cis together, all in this together. And so as we hear these stories of life and love and defiance and celebration, let us also remember and pay tribute to our movement ancestors, many of them trans women of color who led the first rebellion that night. You see, Pride is a celebration of that anniversary, the anniversary of that riot at the Stonewall Inn in New York City, a holy night. So happy Pride. Welcome to this joyful celebration. Bring your whole selves, your gay, lesbian, bisexual, transgender, queer selves. Your drag queen, butch and femme, cross-dressing, nail-painting, tutu-wearing selves. Your genderqueer, gender-fluid, agender, pansexual, quilt bag selves, and all the other identities that are and will be. And let's have a celebration, because joy is a rebellion too. And this church is queer, queer and fabulous. Amen?
Amen.
Let us begin. Come, let us worship together.
We light our chalice with these words from Lori Gorgas Hyben. We light our chalice flame for those who lived their lives in closets and shame, for those who furtively visited the bars where nobody knew your name, for the Stonewall riot, and for the fierce trans women who fought, for the plague, which still takes too many, too young, too soon. So many gone, so many never lived to see. Out gay kids singing on TV, out gay people serving in the military, marriage equality, families formed by intention. We light our chalice flame for all those, and for all our siblings of the rainbow, surviving, living life out in the open with pride.
And let us sing together hymn number 123 in the Gray Book, Spirit of Life.
So in an effort to put as much in this service as possible, we have two stories this morning. But before we get to them, I have a volunteer appreciation. This is sort of an unsung hero award. For someone who gives so much to this congregation without ever wanting any recognition, who does more for this congregation than I'm sure I am aware of, who sings in the choir, who helps with our financial matters, helps run our Breeze database, is a covenant group leader, and does so very much more. This is a thank you to Greg Rosasco.
Thank you.
It's up here.
My Many-Colored Days by Dr. Seuss. Some days are yellow. Some days are blue. On different days, I am different too. You would be surprised the many ways I change on different colored days. On bright red days, how good it feels to be a horse and kick my heels. On other days, I'm other things. Bright blue days, I flap my wings. Some days, of course, feel sort of brown. Then I feel slow low, low down. And then comes a yellow day, and I am a busy bee. Gray days, everything is gray. I watch, but nothing moves today.
You hear Mother?
Then all of a sudden, I'm a circus seal. On my orange days, that's how I feel. Green days, deep, deep in the sea, cool and quick. That's a fish, that's me. Purple days, I'm sad. I drag my tail.
Okay.
But when my days are happy pink, it's great to jump and just not think. Then comes my black days, mad and loud. I howl and growl at every cloud. Then comes a mixed day, and wham! I don't know who or what I am. But it's all, turns out, all right, you see, and I go back to being me.
And our second story is Julian is a Mermaid by Jessica Love. There's a lot of slides and not a lot of dialogue, so I'm just going to keep walking through them, but appreciate the gorgeous artwork. This is a boy named Julian, and this is his abuela. And those are some mermaids. Julian loves mermaids. This artwork shows Julian transition from reading a book on his lap to stripping down to his underwear as he begins to feel more himself in the water. Then Julian is shown swimming in a big school of fish, jellyfish, an octopus, and a stingray in a big whoosh-like motion. Julian has a tail of lavender with an orange fin. He greets a very large fish holding a coral necklace in their mouth for him. But Julian is still on the bus. Vámonos, mijo. This is our stop, his abuela says. The mermaids wave him goodbye. There are girls playing in swim clothes in a fire hydrant that's bursting with water as Julian and his abuela walk by. Abuela, did you see the mermaids? I saw them, mijo. Abuela, I'm also a mermaid. I'm going to take a bath. You be good. Julian has a good idea, and he strips down to his underpants. Then he pulls some fern fronds and arranges them on his head. He takes some flowers and weaves them into the piece. Then he begins to put on makeup. Julian notices a curtain blowing in the breeze. He takes it down and wraps it around his waist. Abuela comes out and says, "Oh," when she sees him. She walks away, and Julian thinks, uh-oh. Julian admires himself in his makeshift mermaid outfit and looks at himself in the mirror. Yep, one more. And one more. Okay. All right. And the next one. Come here, mijo, Abuela says when she returns. She holds out a light orange necklace. For me, Abuela. For you, Julian. He puts it on and they head out for a walk. Where are we going? You'll see, says Abuela. Mermaids, whispers Julian. Like you, mijo. Let's join them. And they do. We will sing our children and youth to their time with Jami and Anahis, and as we do so, I will light this candle to send them with the light and love of this community. We will sing hymn number 413 in the gray hymnal, Go Now in Peace.
Go now in peace, go now in peace. May the light of love surround you everywhere, everywhere you may go. Go now in peace, go now in peace. May the light of love surround peace everywhere, love surround you everywhere, everywhere you may go.
Now is the time in our service where we take our offering for the work and welfare of this church. Ours is a free faith which must sustain itself financially. Please go to our website, uutarpon.org, and click on the donate button, or you may mail your offering to the church at 57 Reed Street, Tarpon Springs, 34689. For those of you with us in person in the sanctuary, place your offering in the offering plates as they are passed. This month, the month of June, the Social Justice Council is asking for donations for this month for the Navigator Scouts. This group meets at UUCTS and is open to all genders and ages 4 and up. They offer a safe environment to experience the benefits of scouting regardless of their financial background. Your donation will help provide camping gear and outdoor equipment, cover the cost of field trips and supplies, and offer scholarships. Make checks out to UUCTS Memo Scouts. Donate on the line at www.tarpon.org. Select Give the Plate, comment Scouts, or place checks in the Sunday offering. The music we will now have is Standing on the Side of Love, number 1014, in the teal.
Aware of the ableism of standing on the side of love that was communicated, and a long conversation that we had as a faith some years ago now, Jason Shelton changed the words of the song, the title of the song, to Answering the Call of Love. So we invite you during the song to answer to sing as you feel comfortable, either standing on the side of love or answering the call of love.
Promise of the Spirit, faith, hope,
will now take a brief moment of silence to let you settle into yourselves and your seat. Perhaps take a few deep breaths if that is comfortable for you, deep into your belly. Our reading comes from Misha Sanders. This is We Are Pulse. The hashtag says we are pulse, and some of us feel our life force in the beating of our own pulse, and our straight privilege or our white privilege, and we say, not exactly, but we are with pulse, so let's hashtag that too. We are pulse, and we are with pulse, and we have pulse, and together here we rise. Beloved queer siblings who said, we are pulse, or we have pulse, or we are with pulse, and the banks will not take our blood, though our hearts cry to help. We are pulse. We are pulse. Beloved Muslim siblings who said, we are pulse, or we are with pulse, or we have pulse, and we will wait with you in long, hot lines to give our own blood without breaking our fast of Ramadan, no matter how tired our pulse, our pulse. Beloved Latinx siblings who said, we are pulse, or we are with pulse, or we have pulse, and fear will never, ever cause us to cease our dancing to our rhythms, our beats, the pulse, the pulse. Beloved Black siblings who said, we are pulse, or we are with pulse, or we have pulse. And today, on behalf of Mother Emmanuel and her children, we rise with you and say, enough, enough. And we pulse, we pulse. We pulse together today for all of the fallen beloved believers in life and love and laughter who just wanted to dance until dawn, or until the blood pulsed endorphin energy through their beautiful brown bodies until they had had their fill. It is not enough that we rise. We do not want to rise because so many who belong with us are gone. Yet rise we will, and we have, because we remain and we see the pulse in each other, and our hearts pulse hope, and hope is everything. Just as long as we have pulse, we are with pulse. We are pulse.
When I was in 3rd grade, I thought that I was gay, 'cause I could draw. My uncle was, and I kept my room straight. I told my mom, tears rushing down my face. She says, "Ben, you've loved girls since before pre-K." Tripping. Yeah, I guess she had a point, didn't she? Bunch of stereotypes, all in my head. I remember doing the math like, yeah, I'm good at Little League. A preconceived idea of what it all meant for those that liked the same sex had the characteristics. The right-wing conservatives think it's a decision, and you can be cured with some treatment and religion. Man-made rewiring of a predisposition. Playing God on, here we go. America the brave still fears what we don't know. That God loves all his children is somehow forgotten, but we paraphrase a book written 3,500 years ago. I don't know.
And I can't change, even if I tried, even if I wanted to. I can't change, even if I tried, even if I wanted to. My love, my love, my love, she keeps me warm. She keeps me warm. She keeps me warm. She keeps me warm.
If I was gay, I would think hip-hop hates me. Have you read the YouTube comments lately? Man, that's gay. Gets dropped on it daily. We become so numb to what we're saying, a culture founded from oppression, yet we don't have acceptance for them. Call each other faggots behind the keys of a message board, a word rooted in hate, yet our genre still ignores it. Gay is synonymous with lesser. It's the same hate that's caused wars, from religion, gender to skin color, the complexion of your pigment. The same fight that led people to walkouts and sit-ins. It's human rights for everybody. There's no difference. Live on and be yourself. When I was at church, they taught me something else. If you preach hate at the service, those words aren't anointed. That holy water you soak in has been poisoned. When everyone else is more comfortable remaining voiceless rather than fighting for humans that have had their rights stolen, I might not be the same, but that's not important. No freedom till we're equal. Damn right I support it.
And I can't change, even if I tried, even if I wanted to. My love, my love, my love, she keeps me warm. She keeps me warm. She keeps me warm. She keeps me warm.
We press play, don't press pause. Progress, march on. With the veil over our eyes, we turn our back on the cause, till the day that my uncles can be united by law. When kids are walking round the hallway plagued by pain in their heart, a world so hateful, some would rather die than be who they are. And a certificate on paper isn't going to solve it all, but it's a damn good place to start. No law is going to change us. We have to change us. Whatever God you believe in, we come from the same one. Strip away the fear. Underneath it all, it's the same love. And about time we raised up.
Love is patient, love is kind, love is patient, love is kind. I'm not crying on Sundays, 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 I'm not crying
That song gets me every time. Sorry. My name is Griffin Kane. I am a short male pushing 60 with glasses, military cropped hair, and my pronouns are, well, as in my many colored days. I may be perceived different on different days. Perhaps I am he, him in a kilt. Perhaps I could be she, her in a fabulous rainbow skirt. I'll explain the difference later if anyone wants to know the difference. Or simply they, them, and my clothing is unimportant as to how you need to perceive me. In preparation for standing up here to discuss my personal relationship with pronouns and identity, I first asked my children and my partner Starfire if I could discuss theirs as we are tied together as a family. We all evolved in this brave new world, and I say new as until I had children, I never gave it much thought, but this brave new world of the L, B, G, T, Q, I, A, plus 2. Yes? 2 plus, sorry. I would occasionally check in with the children as they were evolving to confirm what their current pronouns were. And after time, a few years, their sarcastic answer would usually be, my pronouns are none. Do not refer to me. They were teenagers. As of last week, both children, now adults, told me their pronouns are still none. However, I am welcome to talk about them enough to state that pronouns are, and I paraphrase for polite language, an irrelevant BS social construct, and still none. They generally go by she, her, they, and he, him, they, though that is situational at best. That is their generation. That is to say, they would prefer not to be held to preconceived ideals of any individual pronoun. Preconceived ideas often make people angry, and angrier when they hear them, and they feel it's none of their business. Starfire, by the way, has confirmed she is and always will be femininely she, her. So I was reading a lot of what the UUA has on LBGT, etc. And I came across this particular item, and it's important only that as one of my children is trans, it made me think. There are 10 ways to be more welcoming and inclusive of transgender people. One of them it says, we should recognize that transgender is not a sexual orientation. We should educate ourselves and others on the distinction between sexual orientation and gender identity and expression. Don't say lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender if you are only talking about sexuality. I feel this should be considered across the entire spectrum as how we perceive labels. So, if this were a sitcom, and pretty much any point in my life, if I were in a sitcom and I announced, I am gay, everyone would chuckle and say, "We know." And then a laugh track would play in the background, and we would all hug, and we would move on. But by me standing up here and stating, "I am gay," your perception of me has changed. I can see the wheels turning. It happens. Because the preconceived notions of a man saying he is gay are automatically sexual orientation. I state I am gay not as a sexuality, but as a word that nowadays covers most, if not all, options, with exception of heterosexual cisgender on behalf individuals. If there is fluidity, gay, queer covers it. In fact, a very young friend many years ago once told me I was the gayest straight man he had ever met. And I looked at him and I said, "I assume that's a compliment?" To which he said, "Of course. And I bestow this title on you on behalf of the entire gay community. You are officially gay." Now, I never suffered the pain and confusion of gender dysphoria. I have seen it. I have discovered, however, as I go through life, that I have had an issue with what is known as gender identity. I was born male, but never felt that I fit the cis male gender. In fact, I spent my entire life struggling to pass as a male. But I'm a 5'4" male with a high-pitched voice and an extremely effeminate nature. So much to the point that I am usually mistaken for she, her. I can have a full beard and be mistaken for she, her. But I never thought I wanted to be she, her. I was comfortable in my body. I was comfortably being male. And I just didn't want to fit one pronoun. So watching my children's amazing and beautiful evolution showed me that I could be just me, not what society expects me to be. When I use pronouns or say I'm straight, or that I am gay, or in fact pan, and to be a different me on a different day. But to do this, that then leaves me having to be brave enough to say all of this out loud and recognize that there are going to be humans who will dislike my choice. They may even hate me and my children and my friends and those I love. So I stand here proudly and I say, I am gay, and you need not be concerned with my pronouns. And I know that takes bravery, so I will leave you with a quote that you will not find in any of our liturgy, but one born out of the darkness of World War I that I hold dear to my heart. And it is a quote that starts with Samwise Gamgee saying, "It's like in the great stories, Mr. Frodo, the ones that really mattered, full of darkness and danger. Those were the stories that stayed with you, that meant something, even if you were too small to understand why. But I think, Mr. Frodo, I do understand. There is some good in this world, Mr. Frodo, and it's worth fighting for. Thank you.
My turn. June 12th, 2016 was supposed to be a joyfully bittersweet day for me. My teaching pastor and internship congregation in Ohio were celebrating the end of my internship with me. I had graduated from seminary a few weeks before, and my supervisor was then back from the second part of his sabbatical. We were celebrating the things and the ways that we had all learned and grown in our time together. I don't remember when I first read the news about the Pulse massacre that morning, but it was before I made the hour and change trip to my internship congregation. At first, it sounded like just another shooting, the kind we get used to hearing about living in America. Not that that made it any less horrifying, but unfortunately, the horror is part of our common social narrative. First, it was a shooting at a nightclub. Stories began emerging about the terror of the people who were able to escape, of the people inside making final phone calls to loved ones. Some of them hid in restrooms. Those who could fled for their lives. Stories began emerging that it was a gay bar, and there were many Latinx folks who were there that night. The numbers of dead rising. Eventually, the news broke that it was Latin night at the bar. Two well-known Latinx trans and drag performers were featured on stage that night. Watching my Facebook feed and my queer friends saying, "This is us, this is us, when will it end?" And then later, this club was targeted on this night, not only to kill as many people as possible, but to kill brown, queer folks specifically. The complexities were so real. This has been the experience of queer people for generations, and the LGBTQ+ community is not immune from racism. It was the first time I really had a glimpse into what it might be like to have a loved one there, to feel panic and terror. My best friend is Latinx, queer, and disabled. They would have been there that night. Then there were the names being released of those who had died. There was fear that some of them were being outed to the family for the first time, and that some may have been undocumented. It was at the time the deadliest mass shooting in modern US history, and remains the single deadliest attack on the LGBTQ+ community in US history. The lines of queer folks, gay men especially, lining up to donate blood, knowing that for reasons no one can fathom anymore, reasons that emerged and were instituted during the AIDS epidemic due to rampant homophobia and not science. They knew they wouldn't be able to. But they had to show up. It was their way of having some power, some community, some way to gather and mourn as they had for generations on generations before. a vigil for the day for the dozens killed that night, made possible by the same ugly homophobia that killed thousands of people as the government mocked those who became infected and died. That was back before the LGBTQ plus community felt more confident being public, before they had the privileges bestowed by marriage equality and broader social acceptance. It has only been more recently that they started to think that those private underground communities that had sustained them for so long might no longer be necessary. That night in 2016 impacted me deeply, impacted my understanding of gay and queer culture and history in a new way, gave me more insight into the stories of so many people I love. For example, if you look at the pictures that are available of those who were killed, many of them are selfies. It was the first mass event where selfies were the best and most candid pictures available of the victims. It was probably the first time that people were able to name and honor that. At least for some of them, selfies were when they could feel completely themselves. And I remember how beautiful they were. So many young people, so many of the pictures released that were the best of them, taken when they were joyful and happy, coy or playful, full of life, proud and whole. The way they demanded the world see them exactly as they were, no more, no less. To help gain a little more understanding and perspective on this, if you haven't yet, I'd encourage you to read Punch Me Up to the Gods, the memoir by Brian Broom. Broom was selected as a featured speaker at this year's General Assembly, and our Rainbow Welcome Circle leaders have chosen it as a common read. We have copies available if you're interested. Throughout the memoir, Broom weaves contemporary vignettes with stories from his past. He grew up in a rural area to the near northwest of my teaching congregation in eastern Ohio. And although gender, sexuality, and race are social constructs, they are social constructs that deeply impact people's lived experiences. Broom talks about his gayness, his queerness impacts his already challenging experiences as a Black male, and how his Blackness impacted his already challenging experiences as a gay male. The intersection of these identities is deeply complex, no less so for a boy growing up in the 70s and 80s in both a rural and suddenly far poorer area. To appreciate the need for sanctuaries exclusive to queer folks, his memoir will help give insight. Their lives were pulsing that night in the nightclub as they danced and celebrated all throughout what became a horrid night. People of different ages and relationships. A mother was there with her son. Siblings were there together. Partners and friends, of course, as well. Men, women, and people of other genders, gay, straight, bi, or pan, mostly brown or Black, or at least the dead were. On vacations, celebrating birthdays and other events, some showing their skills as dancers. So much joy pulsing in that building, a safe place where they could all be free. It was a sanctuary from a harsh world where they were not fully accepted. Students, executives, hairstylists, dancers, medical professionals. People came from all different backgrounds. That's one of the reasons Pulse was so popular as a nightclub. It was an inclusive space where all were welcome. And yet, we live in a state where our 2 U.S. senators last year authored a resolution to honor the victims of the Pulse massacre and who said, "We vow to always stand up and fight against evil and hatred in this world." But the state has now authored and passed into law bills that censor classroom discussions about sexual orientation or gender identity until 8th grade. Another that threatens the health and well-being of trans children by criminalizing healthcare providers who provide medically safe, gender-affirming care. Another that prohibits gender-inclusive restrooms and changing facilities in government buildings and correctional institutions. Another that dramatically restricts trans adults' ability to receive gender-affirming care. And another that grants, quote, courts of this state to temporarily emergency jurisdiction over a child present in this state if the child has been subjected to or is threatened with being subjected to sex reassignment prescriptions or procedures. That is to say, if a family comes to Florida to say, go to Disney, if the parent that brought them has a trans child who they don't want receiving gender-affirming care, that child could be taken custody of the state, at least temporarily. And let's not forget the support for legislation that prohibits children from attending certain events that may be interpreted to include drag shows or possibly even pride events. Do we live in a state that honors the lives of those who were hunted and killed that night? Because based on Florida's legislation, we absolutely do not. And hate of queer folks is spreading quickly. I've recently joined a network that is working to get trans, non-binary, and other queer individuals and families out of Florida to safer places or to support them in getting the care they need if they choose to stay or need to stay here. Their requests are coming in daily. It sure does not sound like this is a state that honors its history or its people. But we don't need the state to honor those who died and the many who still live and fight for their lives daily. We never have. This space is a sanctuary. May we make it a space safe for everyone. May we honor the lives lost and remember them by dancing fully and often and by being ourselves. And may those of us who have the ability to do so continue to advocate for freedom and justice, that we may all be able to dance without fear ever again, because joy is a rebellion too. If you would please rise in body or in spirit to sing our closing hymn, number 1053 in the Teal hymnal, How Could Anyone?
And we will be taking the repeat, so that means that we will sing it twice through. I'll play it through for you. So you know the tune.
Our closing words come from Jean Harrison Newyar, who has written in The Gift of Faith. In the lore of ancient China, there's a story of a philosopher who was asked, "Where is the road called hope?" He replied, "It does not exist, but as people move forward upon it, it comes into being." I invite you to continue moving forward on this path, this journey called hope, pulsing with joy and resistance with me.
We are here to tell the world.
We are coming out.
We are here to spread the word.
We are coming out.
Everyone across the land. We are here to make a stand. We are coming out. We are coming out. We are here to tell the world.
We are all the same.
We are here to spread the word.
We are all the same.
Everyone across the land, we are here to make a stand. We are all the same. We are coming out. We are here to tell the world.
We are living life.
We are here to spread the word.
We are living life.
Everyone across the land, we are here to make a stand. We are living life. We are coming out. We are here to tell the world.
We are living love.
We are here to spread the word.
We are living love.
Everyone across the land, we are here to make a stand. We are giving love. We are coming out. We are here to tell the world.
We are sharing peace.
We are here to spread the word.
We are sharing peace.
Everyone across the land, we are here to make a stand. We are sharing peace. We are coming out.
We hope that you found meaning in today's service. We close with these words by Melissa Jeter. From this ground, let us sow mercy, justice, and compassion. Let us offer our stories to provide our staples of wisdom. And when we do, let us create and experience the presence and affirmation that allows us to connect with our theological imaginations, so that the harvest of our faith will be abundant grace.